Can y'all hear me? Perfect. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Taylor Sykes. I am a lecturer of English and the coordinator for the creative writing program here at UNCA. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome everyone tonight to the Catherine Min Memorial Reading. This annual reading is held in honor of Catherine Min, the late writer and UNC Asheville faculty member who is a mentor to many budding writers here at the university. Thank you so much to Catherine's children, Kayla and Clay, for their continued support. I'd also like to thank everyone who made this event possible, especially the Paris family for their generous contribution to our Visiting Writers series. Tonight, our visiting artists will perform for about an hour, followed by a short Q&A. There is also merchandise that will be available for purchase after the show. I was first introduced to the Palimpsest Productions back in the spring of 2024. It was my second time teaching a writing workshop centered around horror fiction, and it was actually a student in that class who brought my attention to the Black Mountain-based horror podcast. As soon as I listened to their first season, I knew I had found kindred spirits in Jamie and Haley. The storytelling in Palimpsest accomplishes so much of what I encourage my students to aim for in their own horror stories. Rather than shy away from fear, they embrace it, confront it, and harness it in language, creating stories that echo long after the last scream. It's been an honor to work with Jamie and Haley and to introduce them to our students. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Palimpsest is an audio drama about memory, identity, and the things that haunt us. Each 10-episode season is a unique and self-contained story exploring the spaces between horror, fantasy, and psychological realism. Beyond the namesake audio drama, Palimpsest Productions creates dark stories about dark things that won't stay buried. Creators Jamison Ridenhour and Haley Henninger specialize in audio drama and live audio experiences. Starting in 2017, they have since expanded into a full production company with a planned roster of new shows starting in 2025, including Ratcatcher, which just debuted on Halloween and we will see performed here tonight. Founder, writer, and producer Jamie Ridenhour is also a playwright and a novelist. He has written werewolf murder mysteries, academic studies of vampire film, and plays about punk rock. His ghost play, Grave Lullaby, was a finalist for the Kennedy Center's David Cohen Playwriting Award in 2012. Founder, actor, and producer Haley Henninger is a stage, film, and voice actor, and occasional painter, writer, and model. Beyond Palimpsest, she is best known for her role as Maeve in the web series Transplanting and Jenny in the short horror comedy film How to Love Your Demon. Thanks so much to Jamie and Haley for joining us tonight, and I hope you all enjoy the show. Thank you so much.
Well, that was our entire bio. That was like everything that we've ever thought or done our whole life. Thank you. I want to thank UNCA for having us. Thank you, Taylor, for inviting us. I'm really pleased to be part of the Catherine Min reading program. I never got the privilege of meeting Catherine, but I taught her story Courting a Monk for 15 years or something. She was a brilliant, brilliant writer. So I'm honored to be here as part of that. I usually start by telling you what we do, but Taylor's already done that. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to do one episode of Palimpsest. We're going to do a standalone episode. You do not have to have listened to our show at all to understand or follow what we're about to do. The story stands on its own. If you are a fan and have listened to the show, it's also chock full of Easter eggs and characters that you'll recognize and understand connections to. Briefly, we have had 5 seasons and 7 standalone episodes aside from those seasons. Every season is its own story with its own character, and but they all take place in the same house, a house which is called the Hawthorne House sometimes. Maison d'Aubepine when it's in France, which means Hawthorne House in French. And it is a house that can appear at any location and any time period, which has, if you've listened to the whole show and paid very close attention, has been explained, but people continue to ask about it. You're welcome to ask about it. I won't answer. And this is a standalone episode called Respite, and it is a sort of tour of the Hawthorne House in some ways. I think that's all you need to know before we begin. We generally do a content warning, so we'll go ahead and begin. This episode of Palimpsest contains images of blood, axe murder, car accidents, and the inescapable consequences of your own transgressions.
When you wake up, everything is quiet, except for the throbbing in your head, which is more sound than pain. There has just been a great noise, shattering the dark and startling birds into flight, but you only know this because of the quality of the silence. It is an after quiet, the feeling of stillness returned. You can't remember where you are. You are obviously in a car, and you think it must be your car. You are in the driver's seat, and no one else is with you. But you don't immediately know where you are going. The car isn't moving, and you understand that the throbbing in your head and the recent noise is somehow connected to that fact. The engine is not running, and the angles are wrong. The car seems to slope forward like it's been parked on a hill. The headlights are on, but you can't see anything outside. The car door is open, you discover. You move, and your whole body screams in response. Your head is coated in sweat, despite the cool air spilling in from outside. You manage to unbuckle your seatbelt and slip from the car, nearly tumbling down the hill you now perceive as the cause of the car's crazy tilt. Steadying yourself against the door, you try to get your bearings. Try to remember. It is dark. You are at the bottom of a steep slope. Your car, you are nearly certain it is yours, rests against a tree, its hood crumpled around the thick trunk like paper. You must have run off the road. The road must be at the top of the hill, but that's lost to darkness. The trees are thicker in front of you, and tendrils of mist drift among them. The fog may be a clue to what happened. You wipe at the sweat running into your eyes and peer back up at the slope. Nothing seems to be broken, but your knee has been badly banged up and your hip doesn't feel right. You cannot imagine making that climb in the dark, but neither can you imagine plunging forward into the trees. It does occur to you, somewhat later than it should have, that you must have a phone. You check your pockets and find nothing. No phone, no credit cards or ID. Did you leave home with nothing? You lean back into the car, holding the door for support. The keys are in the ignition, and there is a silver travel mug in the cup holder. A scattering of receipts and coins on the center console. There is a canvas bag in the passenger seat that contains a toothbrush, a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and an unlabeled bottle of pills. How do you plan to spend the night somewhere? You do not look in the back seat. You try to think through the throbbing in your head. Try to picture your phone. Is it broken? You have a weird dreamlike memory of a phone arcing through the air. Thrown. Was it by you? You can't remember. But you have a sharp memory of the phone hitting the wall, the jangle of grabbed keys, the slamming of a door. Was that tonight? Was the overnight bag already waiting in the car? The sweat is running into your eyes again, and in the light of the dashboard, you can see your hands clearly. This is not sweat. The blood is running down the side of your face, pulsing in slow rivulets. You notice for the first time the starburst in the windshield, spiderwebbing out from a reddish stain. You take off your shirt and wipe at the blood on your hands and face. You press the cloth against the cut. It doesn't seem too deep, though wiping it adds a sharp sting to the steady throb. The chill of the night air goose pimples your skin, and you grab the clean shirt from the canvas bag and pull it on. You have yet to cry, yet to panic. You ache, but not badly enough to stop you moving. Is this what shock feels like? When the flow of blood from your head slows to a trickle, you drop the bloody shirt and step forward into the trees. Away from the headlights, you find it is not as dark as you thought. The moon sends a fitful illumination through the trees, and as you crunch through the autumn carpet of leaves, you can make out individual trunks stretching out in front of you and to either side. Dark oaks with thick trunks, interspersed with birches, their pale bark luminescent in the dappled moonlight. Time slows like the blood from your head wound. You stumble forward, leaning against the trees for support, the bark rough under your palms. You try to move in a more or less straight line, as if it matters. The headlights are lost behind you eventually, and the trees seem endless. You think only of getting out, of finding a road or a trail. The forest is silent. There are no birds, no rustlings in the undergrowth. There is your breath, your pulse, the crunch of your feet in the leaves. And then, a light. At first, so faint you think you've imagined it. Surely it must be a glint of moonlight on the birch bark. But it grows steadily as you move toward it, a fixed point. You focus on it, and you walk. After some minutes, 15, 30, the trees begin to thin out, and you recognize the brightness as a cluster of lights. As you draw closer, the cluster resolves itself into the brightly lit windows of a large house. Your relief allows you enough adrenaline to pick up the pace. You approach the house from the side, coming out of the trees onto a wide lawn lined with flower beds. You move to your right, rounding the corner of the house and approaching the wide veranda through the long grass. You can see a road at the far end of the lawn, a dark line curving away down the hill. No other houses are in evidence. A large oak tree dominates the front lawn, and as you pass it, you are startled by movement. There is an old-fashioned rope swing hanging from a low branch, and in the swing is a little boy, no more than 10. He's barefoot, swinging gently on the flat wooden seat. You know you must look frightening, but he regards you smilingly. Seems a happy kid. He doesn't say anything, so you say, "I've been in an accident. Are your parents home?" He giggles and says, "They're always home." Then he hops off the swing and leans forward, cupping his hands around his mouth as if to impart a secret, and says in a loud whisper, "But they're not my parents." And then he runs off, into the darkness around the far side of the house. You mount the steps and cross the veranda to the front door. The door is large, oaken, and painted a vivid green. In the center is a brass knocker shaped like a cat with a fiddle. The cat's face is designed in such a way that it seems to be smirking at you, like it somehow knows something you don't. You have another flash of memory, the broken phone, but try as you might, you can't hold on to it. The house is lit up, but all is eerily quiet around you. You reach forward and lift the knocker. But before you can drop it, before you can announce your presence, the door opens. To put it more accurately, the door is wrenched away from you, opened with force, and someone comes rushing out, frantic, pushing you aside as you stand with your hand raised. Cannot get a good look at the person, but you can sense the pain and the fear. You hear a sob, a deep, racking cry, and they are quickly obscured in the darkness beyond the oak tree. You have barely steadied yourself when you realize someone else is standing at the door. A young woman in a green dress is smiling at you expectantly. She has striking brown eyes rimmed with kohl and a peacock feather in her bobbed hair. There is a single green jewel in the center of a black silk choker that she wears. She looks like she's dressed for a Great Gatsby party. "Oh," you say, a little imbalanced. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I've been in an accident." Her face crinkles at this pronouncement. "Oh no, you poor thing," she says. "Come inside." She takes your arm and guides you through the house. "I'm Lenore. What can I do?" She shuts the door behind you. You and Lenore are standing in a high-ceilinged foyer dominated by a sweeping staircase. There are 2 closed doors to either side and a large grandfather clock standing against the wall. Faint music, like from a record player, can be heard from an adjoining room. You notice the carpet, a beautiful Persian rug that covers much of the hardwood, and vaguely worry about getting dirt on it. Your shoes are ruined. "What do you need?" Lenore asks. She is standing close to you, and you smell a sharp, sweet odor coming from her. Is it licorice? Her eyes are so dark, so liquid. She says, "How badly are you hurt?" I think I just need a phone," you say, though you can't think of who you would call. Is there someone's number who you know by heart? You are lightheaded, and you wonder how much blood you have lost. And maybe a bandage of some kind? She lightly touches your head. Her fingers are cool and dry. You feel feverish against her skin. "Of course," she says. "Follow me." The room she leads you to is an old-fashioned parlor, like something from a Jane Austen novel. There is a fire burning on the hearth, and a red velvet sofa and matching armchairs arranged in front. The windows are made of old, wavy glass, like an antique dollhouse. Lenore sits you on the sofa and hands you a clean white cloth. "Press that to your head," she says. "I'll bring a bandage, and I'll have Miss Perot make tea." She peers into your face again, concern etched on her pretty features, and then leaves, closing the door behind her. You sink into the overstuffed cushions. You hadn't realized how much you needed the comfort, the softness. You can faintly hear the grandfather clock in the foyer. Above the mantel is a painting, A woman in a black and gold dress, not Lenore, lying in the grass next to a bottle of wine. It is a vivid picture, hyper-realistic, like she is about to speak or move. Something is written on the wall behind the painting in red paint, and you can only see the edges spilling out from under the frame. You want to look closer, but that would require getting off the sofa, and the cushions are so soft, so soothing. You can hear the music, a little louder now, possibly coming from behind the second door on the room, which is to your left. And as you look that way, wondering if it's a radio or a turntable, the door opens and a girl comes into the room. The girl looks maybe 17, maybe younger. She has black hair, layered and feathered back from her face, and a loose cottony blouse under a red shawl shot through with gold over faded jeans. Pushed back on her head is a mask, a cheap, clear plastic Halloween mask with a thin elastic string. You say, "Are you Mrs. Perot?" And she laughs. "I'm not Mrs. anything," she says. "I'm Marie," she says, and she holds her hand out, but then draws back when she looks more closely at you. "Geez, what happened to you?" "I had an accident," you tell her. "The other woman, Lenore, she said someone was bringing me a bandage and that I could use a phone." "You look like hell," Marie says. She extends her hand to you. "Come with me. I can get you patched up." "She said to wait here," you say. Lenore seemed sweet and caring. This girl seems off. Not dangerous necessarily, but you don't like the way her eyes keep darting around the room, the way she holds one hand tight to her chest. "I'll just wait for Mrs. Perot." "Don't be silly," Marie says. "There's a first aid kit in the bedroom, and a phone, too." She holds her hand out again, waiting long enough that you begin to feel self-conscious. She is only a girl. You take her hand, and she leads you through the other door. You pass down a hallway lined with books, casting a few furtive glances at Marie. Under the shawl, there seems to be something wrong with her chest. An irregular stain spreads from the left side of her torso, and the shirt lays oddly against her skin. Marie pulls the shawl tighter and smiles at you. She points out a bathroom, small and old-fashioned like the parlor. "You should wash your hands at least," she says. "Then we can patch you up." You look at your hands. They are caked in blood, much more than you remember. Could that much have come from your head? Your surprise must show on your face because Marie giggles again. "It's a lot," she says. "What did you do?" Before you can try to answer, there's a flash of dizzy memory. The broken phone lying on a blue canvas tarp, a glint of light on thin metal edge, a slick of gore. Marie pushes you gently toward the bathroom. You step to the sink. The tiles are a shade of light green that probably reads vintage to some, grandma's house to others. There's just enough space to stand at the sink without backing into the clawfoot tub behind you. It is definitely vintage, though the floral plastic curtain strung around it is not. You wash your hands. The water is warm and soothing, and with the help of a bar of translucent, almond-scented soap, most of the blood comes off. You are drying your hands, the skin still marked with pale pink spots, when you notice movement in the mirror. A quick ripple, the hint of a shadow. Someone is standing in the bathtub, 6 inches away, just behind the curtain. Your heart slows, the flesh crawling across your arms and back. You look to the door, but do not see Marie. You are afraid to move. Hello, you call. Marie? Lenore? There's another movement behind the curtain. You wish you had a knife, but you remember you left that in the car. Moving quickly so that you do not have time to think, you turn and yank the curtain aside, wrenching it hard enough to pull it loose from 2 of the plastic rings holding it up. The tub is empty. There is a Rorschach of dust around the drain and what looks like a small footprint, but it could just be old dirt. You steady yourself on the edge of the tub. Can blood loss cause hallucinations? Cheerful question. You need that first aid kit. Back in the hallway, you see no trace of Marie. You look both ways. Should you continue towards what she said was the bedroom? You decide to go back to the parlor, where Lenore had said someone would come to help. But no one is in the parlor. The woman from the painting watches you, sitting up on the grass. What kind of house have you stumbled into? There is nothing in the foyer but the ticking of the grandfather clock. You wonder if you should leave. The front door is right there, but you feel more and more lightheaded, and you can't face the wide forest outside. You call Lenore's name again, but hear only the echo of your own voice. There is a door across the room, the mirror of the one into the parlor. You cross it and listen. Several low voices seem to be in conversation, punctuated at intervals by soft laughter. There's a clatter of silverware. You knock. There is no answer, and you knock again. Slightly louder this time. When no one answers, you open the door. The room flickers in the light of hundreds of candles, and stuck to the shelves in their own wax. Running the length of the room is a wooden trestle table. A white linen runner is laid down the center, and lead vases hold sprays of lilies and yew leaves among the ubiquitous candles. The table is laden with a sumptuous feast. Meats covered in gravy, roasted vegetables, tureens brimming with broth, huge loaves of bread, broken and steaming. 12 people are seated at the table. They are dressed for a costume party, maybe, or some eccentric gathering that you can't parse. There is fancy dress, ties and tails, and there are corseted gowns like Dickens characters. And there are contemporary cocktail dresses and blazers. They are wearing outlandish hats and simple berets, and some are hatless. The dancing shadows make their faces seem pointed, and in your lightheaded state, you think you glimpse whiskers and red gold beards. When you step into the room, all sound stops. Forks stop halfway to mouths. Chattering diners bite sentences into silence. All heads turn towards you, and you have this strange sensation, almost certainly false, that the conversation had been about you somehow. Their eyes are sly, and they don't quite meet your gaze, looking instead at each other or their plates or the silver glint of their steak knives. "I'm sorry," you say reflexively. "I didn't mean to," but you don't know how that sentence ends. "I'm looking for Lenore," She said there was a phone. The woman in the beret stands up, wiping her mouth on a linen napkin. Oh, but you must have something to eat, she says. There is a 13th chair at the head of the table, empty and waiting, as if they knew you were coming. She gestures to it. No, you begin. I don't need to eat. I need a bandage. But 2 other diners have risen and are ushering you to the chair, pulling it out, insinuating you into it, urging silverware into your stained hands, filling a plate. The smell of the meal before you is heady and toothsome, and your stomach lurches in response. You cut off a mouthful of meat and lift it, dripping gravy, to your mouth. It tastes, and there is no other way to say it truthfully, of dread and solace, as if someone had infused all the sadness and sweetness of their life into the very substance of the fare. You become aware of the other diners watching you, anticipating, as if eager for your opinion. They are actually leaning forward, waiting. You swallow and find your voice to say, "It's very good." And then, when they don't move, "It's excellent." "Oh, I'm so glad," says a smiling woman in a print dress and apron of a 1950s sitcom mother. "I made it special." And everyone relaxes, leaning back and resuming the meal. They laugh and eat, refilling your glass with thick, sweet red wine, ladling gravy, and pressing fruit towards you till you absolutely cannot eat anymore. You put your fork down. The diners have forgotten you, turn back to their conversations and their own seemingly endless meal. Across the room, there is another doorway you had not noticed before, and now a woman emerges from the shadows there. She's wearing a concert t-shirt from a band in the 70s and blue jeans stuffed into work boots, as stark a contrast to the dinner party guests as you could imagine. She gestures conspiratorially, waving you toward her, and then disappears back through the doorway. You push your chair and stand. The woman to your right, an older woman with a British accent, is laying out tarot cards on the table. She looks up at you, smiling, and says, "Surely you're not leaving us?" "I'll be right back," you say. She shakes her head. "You'll find that car, you know. What will you do then?" Then she turns back to her cards. You move around the table and through the doorway. She is waiting for you in the shadowy vestibule just beyond. She smells like smoke and ash, like she's been sitting by a wood fire. She gently touches the cut on your head and says, "You shouldn't have eaten so much." "I didn't want to be rude," you say, "but you were also hungry." "It wasn't that much." "With that food, any is too much." She glances back through the doorway to where the diners are still chattering, still eating. "You need to get patched up. Come with me." She leads you into a smaller room, lit by a blue lamp, with a writing desk and an armoire. The far wall is a set of French doors framing a wide, moonlit lawn. The woman opens a desk drawer, rummages within, and pulls out a roll of gauze and a small pair of scissors. You notice pinkish stains on her hands, not unlike yours. She talks in a low voice while she dabs at your wound and cuts off swatches of gauze. It's deep. It must sting. She is not wrong. You were lucky. Not everyone was, huh? What? The gauze catches on the edge of the wound, stinging. What does that mean? You know. I know. Abby knows. Sometimes you've just had enough. Who's Abby? What are you talking about? But part of you doesn't want to hear the answer. Part of you knows. It's okay, she says. And suddenly, there's a flicker, and her face changes. Her smooth skin is overlaid with cracked and blackened flesh, and the campfire smell is so strong you want to gag. Wisps of smoke lift from her exposed scalp. You aren't ready, she continues. You'll have to look in the back seat eventually. She lights a cigarette with a silver lighter and takes a long drag. It doesn't smell like tobacco. The smoke envelops you like a blanket. It's going to be okay, she tells you again. We all make mistakes. She pats the freshly dressed wound, her face smiling and whole again. If you go through the kitchen, you won't have to pass the dining room again. The phone is upstairs. The kitchen is dark. You move across it and find yourself back in the foyer. There is still no sign of Lenore. You head upstairs. You sway at the top of the stairs, losing and then finding your balance in a queasy dance. The staircase ends in a wide landing, a mezzanine maybe 10 feet deep, spanning the width of the foyer below. There is a small table on the landing, but no phone. An old medieval-style tapestry depicting fairies in flight hangs on the wall, and there is a door on either end. The one closest to you has a little brass plaque fixed to the wall next to it, etched with faded ornate letters you can't quite make out. Perhaps laughter? You open the door and go in. It's a storeroom. Stacks of chairs under dusty sheets, boxes of knickknacks and old photos. A rusty axe leaning against a stack of cookbooks. A tall standing mirror with postcards stuck around the frame. The wall is laden with posters and framed prints, all coated in dust. There's a wedding photo of someone who could be Lenore, and a color snapshot of two little girls, maybe 8 or 10, with their arms around each other. A curling yellowed handbill advertising something called Dr. De Quincey's Unseelie Court. A stack of vinyl albums next to a console stereo complete with record player and 8-track. There does not appear to be a phone. There is a window in the midst of the chaos, and the moonlight from outside is the main light in the room. You look outside, trying to figure out which side of the house you are on. You see a wide lawn, stretching back to a line of trees. Up against the house itself is a garden plot with an explosion of trailing vines. Pumpkins. Amongst the pumpkin vines, 3 6-foot-long oblong piles of earth. The one on the left has a shovel thrust into the soil so that it stands upright, as if a worker has just stepped away for a moment. Raising your eyes, you realize that the lawn is not empty. Standing next to the garden plot is a tall man in an old-fashioned black suit. He is standing so still, you could almost have imagined him. The moonlight falls around him, but not exactly on him, and he casts a long shadow across the grass. He wears a tall hat, whose brim obscures his face, so you cannot be sure he is looking up at you. "It's all memories," says a voice behind you, and the gauze patch pulls uncomfortably as you startle. The girl behind you looks around the same age as Marie, maybe 15, maybe 18, but she's dressed in a cheerleader's uniform. Embroidered above her right breast is the name Abby. "What is?" you ask. "All this junk." Her gesture takes in the whole room. "Memories. They build up over time, like dirt or, I don't know, plaque on your teeth. It's pretty crazy, right? Like, what are these people, hoarders?" "These people," you repeat. "Do you not live here?" "No one lives here," she says. Her smile is disconcerting, like she's waiting on a punchline. You hated girls like her in high school. "No one lives here at all." "Then who are all these people? Why is everybody dressed like a costume party?" "Are they?" she asks. She takes 2 short steps toward you, her blonde ponytail bobbing. "Should we be dressed like you?" She holds her hands out toward you, indicating your stained jeans and once fresh shirt, now likewise stained. Her hands carry the same faded red markings as the smoke woman downstairs. The same as you. You ask for the first time, "Where am I?" "You've been heading here since you left your house," she says. "You've been really naughty, haven't you?" Her smile is more of a grin now. "It's okay, though. Sooner or later, it's just too much, isn't it? They should have quit when you asked." "I don't know what you're talking about," you say. "Yes, you do," she says. Was she that close before? She's standing right in front of you. She looks to your right, and you follow her gaze. Leaning against the wall across from the window is a tall, oblong object wrapped in a dirty blue tarp. The tarp is held in place by rubber straps connected with S-shaped hooks. There is no question what is wrapped in that tarp like butcher's paper. "It's not really here," Abby says. "Not yet." "You sure know how to pack a car, don't you?" She is right up against you now, and you can smell her perfume, feel the warmth of her skin. She reaches past you, and her mouth brushes your ear. She breathes. "I know all about back seats." And the hair stands up all over your body. She straightens up, steps back from you. She's holding the rusty axe. You push her aside and run for the door. Somewhere deep in the house, a phone is ringing. On the landing, the door opposite you is opening. Lenore emerges. She opens her mouth to speak, but you do not stop. The cheerleader, Abby, is right behind you, or so it feels. You stumble down the stairs. You are sobbing now. Memories flood you. The argument, the act, the flight. Cross the foyer in 3 steps and throw open the front door. Someone is on the veranda, right in front of the door, their bloody hand raised to knock. You push past them with a cry. You nearly lose your footing on the steps, but then you are in the grass, pulling the gauze free from your freshly bleeding head. You run, frantic, past the huge oak tree with its rope swinging, and then you are lost to the darkness.
Palimpsest is written and produced by me, and the voice of Palimpsest is Haley Henninger. Our music is composed by Ian Ridenour and performed by Ian Ridenour and Dove Beck Levine. Thanks.
That wasn't too bad. Thank you guys so much for that wonderful performance. We will happily take questions from the audience now. If you guys have questions for our performers, Jamie and Haley here.
Thank you. It was really awesome. So I had a question for Haley. When you're like performing the story, which you did an awesome job on, how do you like kind of get into the story and like kind of like perform for the different characters? 'Cause I thought you did a really good job. I kind of felt like immersed in the story. Like, what was your kind of process when you read it out loud for that?
Thanks. Well, like Jamie had said, so we made these visitations as standalone episodes that anyone could listen to and follow along to without listening to the full Palimpsest seasons. But a lot of the characters already existed in prior seasons and in prior episodes. So we spend a lot of time, though Jamie does the writing, I get to spend a lot of fun time coming up with just different traits of the characters and really fleshing them out and making them feel like real people. So they do feel like real people to me since they've been in various episodes and various stories. So it's fun in these episodes where we tour the house to really just feel it. Like the Hawthorne house is such a real place to us. Jamie had mentioned how he made a blueprint for it. So we have all the rooms mapped out and know what goes on in each room. So it's really fun. I mean, doing it over a few years now to just be able to step into it and to clearly see those characters.
Each season, we spend a lot of time before we even write developing the character and her backstory and what her trauma is, and that's a back and forth with Haley and I. And so we get to know those characters really, really well before we put them in the season. And in Respite, which you just heard, Lenore is the main character in season 5. This weird smoky woman is Ash, who is the main character in season 4. There were several. Abby is a character from the Junior Satan Club episode. And so a lot of those were it was easy to kind of jump back into them because you remembered who Marie was and things like that.
I feel like I have all these imaginary friends now. I'm like, oh, that's something Marie would say, you know. Thanks so much.
I have a question a bit more on the tech side of things. And it's kind of two questions. The first is what kind of like software or setup you had for the live performance of the first episode we heard. And the second is with the sound effects and Foley, and if you guys use like open source stuff, if you make it yourself, that kind of thing.
We generally use open source. There's a few things in some seasons of Palimpsest that are Foleyed, but for the most part, we use freesound.org, which is such an amazing resource. And if I ever can't find exactly what I want on Freesound, then I'll make it myself, but that rarely happens. And I pull some weird shit, y'all. I mean, I'm like, I need to find, what is it? I need to find somebody being axed in the chest. And you find like somebody that's like tenderizing meat, and then you find somebody that's squishing a bag of Jell-O, and you put it together, and you're like, that sounds like somebody being axed in the chest. So I use freesound.org. We record, we use Adobe Audition, but you could, I mean, any DAW would work. And when we perform live, I've literally got the audition session open, and I mute Haley's voice in the session, and she talks on top of it. That's how she was lined up so well with the film, is she was watching the sound waves of her voice muted, and she could see where the voice was supposed to begin. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to do that probably. Yeah, it wasn't working. Yeah. So that's how we do it. Yeah. But each in an episode, there are usually 6 to 8 tracks of voice, sound effects, music layered on top of each other.
There is the recurring Hawthorne House theme, though. Is that something that you guys wrote for the show?
My son Ian is our composer, and he writes. He wrote our main theme, and the Hawthorne House theme on the piano is our main theme with all the rest of the instruments stripped away. And then each season I tell him to change it up, and he changes it. And I'll say like, I want it to sound like Nick Cave got drunk with Tom Waits and played it, and then he'll do it. So it's kind of cool. The soundtrack for Ratcatcher is done by my friend Kevin Smith, who I've known since the 4th grade, and he just came in and absolutely killed it. I'm so excited about the soundtrack to that.
I have a question, 2 questions. One is about how did you both start collaborating, and like when did you know you were onto something? And then my second question is about like the craft of writing episodes of a podcast, and specifically how do you treat building suspense in each episode? Is it like you treat each episode as a chapter of a book, or what is just like your approach to writing?
Yeah, well, we met when I had a role in a play that Jamie wrote, and then we like bonded on our love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and different horror stories. And then once that play ended, I was kind of feeling pretty wiped on doing theater just because of the time investment, and wanted to venture out, and was thinking I would really love to do a podcast, but had no idea how to do it. And Jamie was basically saying the same thing. And it just so happened we were both listening to a Welcome to Night Vale podcast called Alice Isn't Dead. And it's one voice, a single voice narration. And it felt like the stars kind of aligned for that. And it turned out that Jamie's son was a musician and had some basic recording material. So it was actually something we could do right away with minimal adding minimal money. Basically, we're like, how do we do this for cheap? We don't have a lot of money to invest. And
Yeah, and so we did it, and it was a big learning curve. And if you listen to season, I'm very proud of season 1. But if you listen, and it sounds fine, but if you listen to season 1 against season 5, you're like somebody learned how to do sound design, right? It's very minimalistic. Season 1 is very minimalistic, and we knew we were onto something. I mean, we thought we were just going to do 10 episodes. This first season, 1 story. We had no idea we were going to build this mythology of the Hawthorne House. We were just telling this one contemporary story set in the contemporary time, set in the house that I moved to Asheville to live in 1994. That's the house. It's at 314 Fairview Drive in Biltmore. And, our moms listened to season 1. And then after season 1 was finished, I sent the complete season along with a press release to a bunch of review places. And we got 2 really good national reviews, including one that compared us to Shirley Jackson, and I could have just quit at that point. And then we started planning season 2, which is a queer fairy love story set in a 19th century freak show. And by the time season 2 started, we had an audience, and season 2 gave us an amazing queer audience because of the story, because of the characters. We just got this huge outpouring of love from that demographic in particular, and then it just took off. Each season's gotten bigger. Yeah.
it became more fun to just build up the house. And it's a house that moves through space and time, so you could place it anywhere. And it was fun to also build in different throwbacks to other characters throughout that.
Yeah. And I learned a lot about. Are you a fiction writer? Yeah, I learned a lot about pacing. I'm a novelist and a playwright, and so I knew how to do that. And so a season of Palimpsest is 10 episodes. So I've got one story arc, but every episode has to have an arc, a build up, a middle, and kind of a release at the end, but enough of a cliffhanger that you want to come in next. So it's like writing television or comics. And I had to really learn that. But part of it helped by looking at things that were out there that Alice Isn't Dead, like about 20 to 23 minutes is your sweet spot for a podcast episode, because that's the length of most people's morning commute. That's what they tell you. And that's about 2,500 words on a double spaced, if you're doing Chun manuscript. And so I know that I'm going to write a 25,000 word novella in 2,500 word chapters, more or less. Sometimes it's 2,000, sometimes it's 27, but and I just learned it. But you're right. It's different than just writing a story because it has to be handed to you in parcels. It's fun. I love doing it now that I know how.
I had a question for Haley. So you speak very smoothly, and I'm sure it's a lot of practice, but do you have like specific strategies for like, speaking smoothly without hitches and ums and things?
I know, yeah. Could you tell I was losing it towards the end of that first one, respite? I was like, whew, I think 45 minutes is about my max. But really, it's just been through rehearsal and repetition and practicing the breath work, trying to find the different beats and breaks. And a lot of, just trial and error and failing, and then figuring it out and realizing where I lose my breath and how to get it back. But I basically stumbled through it, is what my answer is.
And we rehearsed. I mean, we rehearsed 2 or 3 times for this.
Yeah, but these standalones were a little bit longer. And it's definitely much different doing it for a live audience. I like the energy of doing stuff live, but I mean, in the studio it's nice because I could also just pause at any moment and just, no, let's do that again. Like I couldn't pronounce...
Hypnotization.
I cannot tell you how many times I said...
Manipulative. I've got a 2-minute
said
blooper reel of her trying to say hypnotization.
What was I even saying now?
I don't know. Don't think of it again. You know it now. Don't think of. Don't read.
Hyptonization.
Hyptonization.
I would like just do that mentally, but yeah, nailed it tonight.
You did nail it.
You mentioned recording in a studio, and I'm curious what that looks like because you have the 10 episodes per season. Do you how does the pacing of when you do those recordings work? Because I imagine doing all 10 episodes in a single recording session would be hell. So I'm kind of wondering what that looks like.
Well, we're super lucky in that Jamie kind of built a little recording studio in his house, and now the room is pretty sweet. But I mean, it started out with just like foam on the wall and me in the corner, but now we finally got a recording booth, which I heard that there's one on campus, which is pretty exciting.
We record an episode at a time, and we try and in a season we try and have 4 or 5 in the can before the season starts dropping. Our seasons come out bi-weekly, so they come out every other Tuesday when they're running, and we try and have 4 or 5 done, so that we have some space in case we. Because we've also got other lives going on, and Haley's got a 6-year-old, and there's just you can't just. We're not lucky enough to be doing this full time yet, so we schedule it usually on a morning. We'll get a 3-hour session in. It usually takes 2.5 or 3 hours to get a 20-minute episode to get her voice, and then it takes me another 2 or 3 hours to edit, and another 2 or 3 hours to do sound design. So.
Like we shaved down that voice.
We might shaved it a little bit. Maybe it's more like Ratcatcher took longer because of the rhythms and things. Maybe it's an hour and a half. I don't know. Depends on how many smoke breaks we take. Hi, Emmett.
I have 2 questions. One that I had before and one that just popped up that right after you were talking about the lore kind of behind the house. Which is oddly specific, but now knowing that the characters who died in the house get trapped, does that place this episode chronologically after the, what's the name of it, Dancing Queen?
So I've got a great answer. Because the house moves through time, chronology doesn't matter.
I love that, okay.
Because if you listen to season 4, you'll see the house burn down in 1993, but we know that season 1 takes place in 2017. I didn't plan this, but for the fiction, I know there's a lot of writers in the room, and one of the biggest loopholes I gave myself is that move through space and time thing to make it a sort of haunted TARDIS. And because if I want to write a season set in London during the Blitz, which is season 3, I can do it. And if I want to write a retelling of the Bluebeard myth set in France in the 1920s, which is season 5, I can do that. And as long as I drop the Hawthorne House in the middle of it, it's palimpsest. And so it doesn't. I gleefully ignore things like that. So yeah, that happened after Dancing Queen. That happened after Marie was sacrificed at the end of Dancing Queen. But whether the year is before or after, Respite feels contemporary. I mean, the car, they talk about a cell phone, so it's probably after Dancing Queen's 1978, so probably after that. But only because that's when the house decided to be there. The challenge for Respite was I was challenging myself to write a second-person story and to write it in the second person and have it be effective, to have you be the protagonist.
Okay. And then my other question was then seeing the inspiration here, like both in the kind of lore of Palimpsest and in Ratcatcher, of like a lot of fairy tale and folk tale inspiration. I'm curious if knowing that you also like gothic horror, if there's anything tied into that you have ideas for projects in the future or past projects that you've done.
Folk horror or gothic horror?
Either.
Both are happening at the same time. All of Palimpsest is gothic. I mean, I define gothic as a scholar. I define gothic as a narrative that is haunted by the past recurring into the present. Whether it's got the traditional trappings or whatever, which means that like the film Alien is an absolutely gothic film. Also means that Frankenstein is not. And I'm happy to have that argument with people somewhere. Frankenstein is forward-looking and not backward-looking. But so yeah, I mean, I have a PhD in Gothic literature. Like I'm gonna write Gothic, and I'm writing. I mean, our new show is about a 1970s progressive rock band, and I've made it Gothic because I just do. And I love folk tales. I think fairy tales are. I think we've gotten sanitized versions of them, and I love going back to the original versions and seeing how absolutely batshit terrifying they are, and kind of pulling that in. So,
Thank you.
Last question.
I'm curious if, but I'm wondering if there's more pieces of media or artists that have inspired you in creating podcasts in general, and also Ratcatcher, and that's the question for each of you.
Podcast that inspired? It's me. Podcast that we were inspired by early on. Audio drama is a wonderful genre, and it's also a really, in the entertainment world, a very warm and welcoming genre. Unlike, there's none of the cutthroat stuff you could see in like the upper levels of music and acting and that kind of thing. We tend to really be supportive of each other. Very early on, we were initially inspired, like Haley said, by a podcast called Alice Isn't Dead, which is by Joseph Fink, who's the writer of Welcome to Night Vale. I love Welcome to Night Vale. Horror podcasts. And a really great show that's not horror at all called The Bright Sessions, which we're both big fans of, that Lauren Shippen wrote.
Also a podcast called Mabel.
And a podcast called Mabel, which had a lot of similarities with our second season, and a lot of people, we found out about them because people were like, "You should listen to Mabel." There's some great horror podcasts that I love, Magnus Archives, and The White Vault, which is made by my friends Travis and Caitlin. It's really, I think they have 5 seasons now. Cosmic Horror. They had Jeff Goldblum in a season. I was like, what the hell? We haven't got Jeff Goldblum yet, but Travis and Caitlin did. What else? Those are the big ones. My kids listen to a lot of actual play podcasts, D&D podcasts, and so I'm aware of Adventure Zone and Dimension 20 and Critical Role. They just don't inspire me in what I do, but although I enjoy them. So yeah, there's just great stuff. Audio is really great because you're not constrained by the budgets like you are if you're a filmmaker. That you don't have to be like, well, I can't recreate 1942 London. I don't have the budget to do that, but I can do anything I want in audio, and as long as I can find it on Freesound or make it myself, it happens. So,
So what you're saying is this is a very teachable skill for our students here.
it's an absolutely teachable skill. I mean, when season one, we had not a clue. I knew basic how to turn on the recorder and how to turn on the mic. Who was it? Will Williams was who's a podcast critic, was laughing at me because I posted 4 years in of us recording in Adobe Audition, and I was like, "Oh, you can save Haley's EQ'd voice as a preset, I don't have to EQ her voice every time I turn on the thing. I can just EQ it and then save it and call it Haley, and then I have it." And I posted that. I was like, "Look at this thing," and this Will was like, "Jamie, that is so basic." It's like, I know, it only took me 4 years. So yeah, anybody can learn it. And you can sound pretty good pretty fast. And there's not, you can also get it out there pretty fast. And that was one of the big surprises for us, is that, I mean, we knew it, but seeing it in real time is that when you publish it, you don't have to ask anybody's permission to publish it. If you pay for hosting and you hit upload, it uploads, and it uploads everywhere. And so it uploads to Spotify, and it uploads to Apple Podcasts, and uploads to every podcatcher in the world, and it's on Google Play and Amazon Music, and then we've gotten fan art from Russia and fan emails from Venezuela, and it's always a little shock that it's just Haley and I in my spare bedroom having fun, and then people somewhere way out from that I wouldn't expect are like, "I love your show," and I'm like, "Oh, that's right, people can hear me." I want to say thank you so much again for everybody for having us. Thank you so much for being here and staying to the end. Thank you very much.